right, a good day to all. Sam here with you on Wednesday, September 12th. And today we did some polling amongst our Twitter followers. Let them pick. We haven't had really enough movement in Bitcoin to warrant an update there just yet. So we thought we'd throw out a poll to the Twitter followers. And first up we have here, this is Ethereum to the dollar. Now this is certainly an ugly chart. Now, given the depth of this correction, I'm out to a daily chart here, and we got to pay attention to where zero is. We're down here approaching zero here, right just above the point of control, interestingly. So looking here now, right, there's just no signs of a low. Now we can get a count that's positioned to be bottoming here, but so buying the falling knife or trying to pick the turn there, dangerous, right? So at this point, you'd be making an investment that was more fundamentally a long-term belief in the future of Ethereum. We do have some technical components to consider here, and we've looked at this many times before, and I'm working just from the B high here. What I'm proposing is a B high. So just grabbing that swing high to our, get it right on there, to our swing low. Well, here's our 50. All right, and we're approaching that target. So you can make a case here that this is where we might anticipate a reaction, right? I remember when I first drew that up, thinking, God, could it go that low? Well, so per the Elliott count here, there's a reasonable, probably multiple ways to count this, but we can get an ABC down into a W. There's an X, although it's not as deep as you'd prefer to see your X wave, and then it looks like there's a reasonable case for this to be finishing in an ABC. It's not unreasonable. So with this, so just thinking purely from a significant pivot low, here's the 50, we're approaching target. So some kind of reaction out of that is not, wouldn't be something to necessarily buy with both hands, but it wouldn't surprise me if we caught some reaction there. So these algorithms have been short here since May, just hitting their target. Now, nothing says that we have to stop there. Right, we could just blow right through it. There's not a lot of help here. So this, if we look at this is our RSI, it's really kind of a good example here of why you can't lean on these too hard by themselves. So we can look here and say, God, what happened the last time we got this oversold? Right, we had this huge reaction. But then look here, right? We had the same kind of thing here, and what I'm proposing was a third wave. We had the same. We got that movement. Now we didn't get the full recycle that we got here. We roll back over again. So kind of a good example of why you just can't rely on these, by themselves. Oh, we're oversold, let's buy it. You just can't do that. Now we do have, you can make the case here that we have divergence here. If I pull this over here, we have divergence from this initial push down. Now we haven't approached that. So something to hang your hat on, maybe. If you're a bull, or something to at least be aware of, right? We're deeply oversold here. So we can look here, oversold here, got that reaction, oversold here, got that reaction, oversold here, nothing. So I make the point of showing that is that it's not enough by itself, right? It's more of confirming rather than anything you would base a trade on, in my view, for what that's worth. So are we bottoming here? Well, let's go down to a smaller time frame. You can certainly make a case. I think I did this on the 8 hour, so we could see this coming down here. So here's our B. So question is, where we got a lot of pivots to work with. So how do you help identify where we are most likely in this count? Well, it starts here with where's our one wave. If we're going to allow for this to be a one wave, this is the retracement here that would make sense. So if I work off of that pivot and use that as my low, so we get right here, right between the 50 and the 618, we get first, we get second target, ultimately get third, and we're through fourth. So not unreasonable to think that we might have our 1-2 here, and then the subdivision actually now it works from there, but it's. If I have that right, so if that's a 1 here, if we've got 1-2, well, we're looking for some technical significance down here that might support where we're going to find that 3. So the most basic thing we can do is just look for the high probability zone. So if that's our 1 and we project from our 2, then I pull this over, so we can see it, right? Well, so here's our high probability zone for that third between the 1618 and the 175. So the fact that we go there and then I can work the subdivision down so I lean into that as my third, just based off of that. Right, and then I get a little ABC here, so that's a contender for my fourth, and now we've had quite the extension here in the fifth. So then you got to think and say, well, if that's my third, can I get a clean impulsive move out of this? Well, I can get a one. Here's my two. Here's my next two. So I go 1, 2, 1, 2. Here's the big three. Right, so we can see here. So just leaving this on, if that's 1, 2, we get well beyond the 100%. So we know we have a deep enough 3 here. Here's my ABC into a 4. We don't overlap the 1. So far technically, or pardon me, that would be this one. So far technically, there's no threat to the count. So I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, and looks like I can go 1, 2, 3, ABC. Again, we don't threaten the 1, and we come down here. It looks like we can finish our fifth down here to give us that third right in that zone where we'd be anticipating it. So that until proven otherwise, or this extension here causes us to recount it, I can lean into that as a third just based off of that probability zone. Well, what happens next? I get my 3 wave, so it gives me my potential fourth here. So I look and say, well, is it technical? How does it relate to the 2? So if I just take the length of the 3, well, so here in this channel here, I'm going to pull this off just to clear up the chart. Well, we get Vegas wave. We get a little ABC. I don't quite make the 38, but I clear the 23, so I'm right in that zone here. So you look at that and say, why does it stop there? Well, it could be prior support here, or may offer us a little resistance. I get a little ABC if I open that up. Let's see. Where is it? Right here. All right, so here it is. So if I back into this and think, okay, A, B, C, well, that could work. Is it anything here I can hang my hat on? Well, we go to 786, target to the tick. So again, that makes me lean into this, right? So I know a B can go that low, and then we get an algo target here, right in the, we get past the 169, but we hold here right in the range of the Vegas wave. So because of that 3-wave structure, it looks to me like there's a reasonable case here for this to be a 3-4 going in relative to what we've already looked at. So then from there, I think, it looks like I can go 1, 2, yet again, anticipating my fifth down here. So looking at, as we proceed, now let me pull some of that off. 1, 2 looks like 3, so yet again, same thing. So let's take the length of our 1, projected from our 2. Well, where are we going here? Well, this is deep, right? So we get a little reaction here, but the depth of this, now we're in between. We get past the 2618, right? Extreme for a 3. But where else are you going to put it? There's no other retracement to allow for us so I can get a little ABC. And remember, I'm on an 8-hour chart here. So I can get a little ABC in there. That would be more pronounced on a smaller time frame. But that's the only retracement I've got to work with as a candidate for my 4. So if that's 1, 2, big 3, get the extension in the 3, well, we can check. At least we can look for the pivot from the 2 high to the 3 low. Yet again, we're just as we were back here, we're in between the 23 and the 38, right? That's right where we'd anticipate it. Already through that target. Here's the big target, right down here. What are we? 152. That's the big one, right? That's the one we've been watching for since May. Well, does it look like we're done here? Well, yet again, it looks like I could also dig in here and go 1, 2, maybe that's 3, 4, 5, still yet to come. Let's go down to the 3 hours, see how that looks. Scrunch it up here a little bit, see if that makes sense. Well, same process, guys, exactly the same thing. If that's my 1, 2, well, how does that relate to where we are in the third? Do we do the same thing? So we just take the length of the 1, projected from the 2. Where are we? Well, here's our high probability zone. We're already through that. So we're getting, these are just extreme moves for all of these thirds. So here's the 2618, which we got through on this one. Could still be coming, right? So all of this potentially moves over, right? So all that's sitting there because this is that large algo target. So we don't know. We don't know where the 3 low is, assuming that we've got 1, 2, 3 going in. There's a 4 and a 5 yet to come. So again, we don't know that that's the pivot. So it's premature to be pulling that pull this off, to be pulling for this as the 4. But if that were the pivot, we're looking for something like this to give us a 3 in here, and then maybe there's one more push down to give us the 5. So it does not, you can't, it's hard to make a case for this being done down here, even though we're approaching that very long-term algo target. It's hard to make the case that looks done. I wouldn't like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The length of the 4 doesn't, the symmetry is not good with the length of that 2. So I'm inclined to anticipate that there's a 3-way push here. Then we'd look again. We don't know where the pivot is. You can see here we're about to challenge that low again. But if that were the pivot right here, where are we looking for it? So this wouldn't be unusual for all of this to move all over here. Now we're finishing, we're getting subdivision at pretty significant levels here all the way down. So that could be all of that lining up down here to give us this 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, hypothetical. I don't know what happens here. That's just a potential roadmap. I don't know where the low is here. But as we look now in these smaller time frames, yeah, I've got some divergence here. Yeah, I'm deeply oversold. So you can see it. There's the RSI divergence matching this kind of divergence here, a little more pronounced with the RSI. So you can see that as so this gives us our candidate here, but you know, what are we, a couple of ticks off of the low. So a little bit premature to be calling that low in. You know, ideally there's one more push down here, 120, 140. I remember doing a video a while back thinking, God, if it ever got to 140, that's a place to load up. You know, so if you're doing that, which I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying if you're making that play down here at 140, trying to get the turn, it really becomes more about your belief in the cryptosphere long term. Is Ethereum going to survive? Right, as we now sitting here, if we were to head back down here to 140, you know, really depending on how much size you put on there, really question is, are we going to survive? Right, we're going to zero. Right, shit, anything's possible, but that's a gamble that I'd be willing to take, right? I'd rather be a buyer than a seller here, anticipating that Ethereum's going to zero. Not that it's not possible. I think it's highly unlikely, but it's certainly possible. So if we get this push and we roll over, so if you were thinking of that, at least you'd want to try and tie it into some technical confluence down here. We're so deep down, there's no retrace that we can work with. Well, all we can use are targets of where we might anticipate a reaction, right? And it's not buying, it's not algos buying, it's algos taking profits from those shorts. So that which in turn is buying, but it's closing, not fresh longs, right? We'd have to see some volume, we'd have to see some signs of that happening. We're not there. I mean, we're so far down here. It's really hard to make a case for a long. And then the more conservative approach, right? If you want to try and pick that turn down here, as I've said many times, so we're on a 3-hour here, so maybe you get down to the 30-minute and you wait for some signs of a motive wave to get us up, and then you take the first retrace, looking for that. That's the more conservative way to approach it, rather so you don't need to try and pick the turn. Let the first motive wave establish here, so we break this pattern of corrective 3s. Impulsive 5s. If we break that pattern, we get a little motive wave. We can set up between the 50 and the 618 down here, knowing that if we can put our stop underneath that pivot low, right? Right. So that would be, assuming you're going to work with stops down here, that would be the place to exit if you were approaching that as a swing trader. If you're long term, just saying, you know, I'm going hard here because I don't think Ethereum's going to zero. Well, then you're just more of a fundamental trade. Really, right? So if you're just going to buy it down here, then if it breaks that, well, if you liked it at 140, you know, how do you feel about it at 100? Right, a place to add. You know, that I can't make that decision for you. It's just that at this point when we break 100, now that would shock me, right? So it's not that the market hasn't shocked me many times, but that would be surprising, right? We broke 100. Certainly possible, right? Nothing says that any of these algo targets have to be the pivot. They're just things to be paying attention to. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there. So again, as a swing trader, the more conservative approach, wait for the 4-5 to complete, because we can count the thing all the way down, right? It's been technical all the way down. We can count it. So, You know, you're a long-term believer. It's hard not to like it down here. If you want to wait and to approach it as a swing trader, let a motive wave establish. Let's get a one wave. Trade the two, right? You still, shit, man. That would be what you'd be buying at one. Again, I'm hypothetical here. I don't know what that looks like. But if you were buying here at 155, stop under this. You know, it's not unreasonable, right? So I guess the larger point is you don't need to try and pick the turn. You don't need to, right? If it's going to go back, if we're going to recover, if Ethereum's going back to its old glory days, does the difference between buying at 133 and 159 or 55, is that going to make a difference? Probably not, right? So that's what I see there. I know it's very, very ugly, but you know, the one thing that from many years of doing this, I've seen this before. It's just about the time capitulation is what we're looking for, where everybody finally just goes, "Oh, fuck crypto." That's approaching, right? You can feel it. You can feel it in the Twitter sphere. It's getting so dark and so grim. It's bad news after bad news. That's just about the time that people throw up their hands and say, "I'm done with crypto," when you can expect to see the market start to turn. And it feels like we're nearing that point, right? Just my opinion, right? Nothing. I'm not basing that off of anything other than just a general feeling in the market. Right? We're approaching that capitulation point. Maybe it takes one more drive down. Maybe it takes breaking 100. But capitulation is likely, and that's the point where the stronger hands take it from the weak, where the weak just go, I can't take it anymore. Get me out. Right? That's usually about the time you start to see it turn. But with this, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So that's all I can offer there, guys. I certainly would. So I wouldn't be looking for the short here. There's just not enough in it. So if we were to bounce up here for the 38, that's not a short that I would take. Right? But I might definitely look to be adding it if we got something like this. All right, guys. I'll wrap it there. I'm back with one more here when I get the final results from our Twitter poll.